Y'all, what we're going to talk about today, I promise you, I couldn't have made this up if I tried. Literally the same people who built a multi-million-dollar brand by calling everybody else racist and hateful. Come to find out, these are the same jokers, the same people who've been smearing conservatives, targeting Christian organizations, slapping labels on any and everybody who dared to reject their leftist orthodoxy. These are the clowns who are now under federal indictment for allegedly, you gotta say allegedly, funneling millions of dollars to extremists that they publicly claimed that they opposed. So the DOJ announced the other day, alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center concealed payments to informants that were tied to the very extremist groups that they claimed to be fighting against between the years 2014 and 2023. And I said, okay, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You mean to tell me that the anti-hate machine it's probably been financing the very hatred that it used to scare donors and to shape the headlines and to smear their political enemies? I, I don't understand. How can this be? Surely this is not so. Well, here's the deal. I said it was allegedly, but I told y'all. Haven't I been telling y'all that there is profitability in all of this woke whining, crying, and begging? Yes, I told you that. So today we're going to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm calling these jokers the high priest of selective outrage. They are the self-appointed moral hall monitors of America's public life, but now they are caught up in the latest fraud allegations that are exposing what so many of us have been believing for years. Race hustling is a ministry to these people. It has become their business model. And now this indictment is particularly personal for me because the Southern Poverty Law Center came for my people in 2025. They targeted Charlie Kirk and did a hit piece on my client and my friend, Vince Everett Ellison, the day before Charlie died. So let's get into this. So I want you guys to take a look at this clip, and then I'm going to come back and we're just going to deal with the facts.
According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred. The indictment describes this conduct in detail, but one troubling example is that the SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of one person and injured dozens more. This particular person being paid by the SPLC allegedly received approximately $270,000 over the course of 8 years. In total, according to the indictment, between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations-affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front.
All right, you guys. So before I start cooking, on April 21st, the Department of Justice, they announced that a federal grand jury in the state of Alabama indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center. And there are 11 counts. The prosecutors allege that 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of involving false statements to a federally insured bank, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit concealment money laundering. Now, the DOJ alleges that the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, funneled more than $3 million between the years of 2014 and 2023 to paid informants that were tied to the extremist groups such as the KKK and the neo-Nazis, all the white supremacists that they claimed were so bad. Yeah, they was giving money to the very groups that they claimed to be fighting, but they claimed that the money was for informants. But here's the problem. These jokers hid the payments from the donors, hid it from the banks, and they were sliding the money in through all of these fictitious entities and disguising all of their financial channels. So it's like, okay, what's done in the dark was, it's going to come out in the light. But if this was just for informants, why is this not been disclosed? Now, I do want to say this clearly before people start clutching their pearls and hyperventilating in a paper bag. These are allegations, okay? And these are the allegations in a criminal indictment. No one's been convicted yet. But here's my question. If the allegations are true, then that would mean that the organization that claims to be protecting America from all of the hatred that they claim we are being subjected to on a daily basis, like epidemic levels, they're the ones who were financially entangled with the very extremism that it used to raise money and to maintain their relevance. I told y'all, racism is big business, and apparently it's a fundraising strategy. I mean, if the survival of your organization depends on convincing the public that hate is just lurking around every single corner, then you're not merely incentivized to fight the hate. You're incentivized to find it everywhere. Like in every nook and cranny, you're going to find some hatred. And if it's in short supply, sometimes you just have to buy you some. So they're out here inflating it, stretching it, mislabeling it. They're doing all they got to do, allegedly, if these allegations are true. That means these Marxist miscreants were willing to do anything to maintain the ecosystem that keeps their fundraising machine running. That is the grift. But here's a little side note. And I'm going to say this, and I know some of the pro-life community is going to be upset. We have the same problem in the pro-life community. You have pro-life organizations that are fighting against born alive bills and personhood amendments because if abortion is actually abolished, they'll cease to exist and they won't have anything to fundraise off of. So they're the ones, these conservative pro-life groups, not all of them. Some of them are really, really good, but there are a lot of them that block legislation in other states that would have saved more babies. It was them that were like, well, no, we can't do that. So don't vote for that bill. I'm telling you, it's a grift. That is why I keep saying that race hustling is a business. And some of these people, they're not civil rights leaders. They're nothing more than corporate crisis managers looking for a dying racial narrative. Because let's just tell the truth, okay? If racism in modern America were as omniscient and unstoppable and as prevalent as these people claim, the question is, why would a major organization need secret channels and funnels to with fake entities and have to disguise the transfers to manage money tied to the extremist informants if they're just informants? Some questions make you say, now don't it? Now, the prosecutors specifically have alleged that the SPLC concealed the payments through some fictitious groups and bank accounts. That's probably what's going to get them. If your mission is righteous, why all the smoke and mirrors? Why all this ducking and dodging, bobbing and weaving? Why the shell game? Like, why do you need the hidden channels? Why all of the alleged concealment? I'll answer it. It's because it starts to look less like moral courage and more like a hustle with a nonprofit tax status if you do it that way. And let's be honest, you guys, even before this indictment came down, most conservatives I know have already labeled the Southern Poverty Law Center as just a reckless partisan organization that used the label of hate as a political weapon. If you said something that they didn't like, they would mark you I'm telling you, I know it because my friend lived through it. So many conservative groups and Christian organizations have been in their crosshairs and have been on their hit list. And it's not some fringe complaint. There has been repeated criticism of this for a long time. Because the thing about it is, the Southern Poverty Law Center didn't just monitor actual violent extremists. They built influence by broadening the category of what's considered dangerous or hatred until it included people who were simply biblically orthodox or just socially conservative. If you are pro-family, anti-DEI, if you were anti-gender insanity, or just you refuse to bow the knee to this religion of progressivism, they would label you. That was the trick. You take disagreement, rebrand it as hatred, and then use that label to isolate people, punish them, discredit them, and then use it to raise money. That has been their playbook. And so now the very organization that made its name as an arbiter of extremism is facing allegations that it concealed millions of dollars in payments to sources inside the extremist circles. You cannot make this up. These people have spent years yelling, look over there, there's racism, there's white supremacy right there. Oh no, neo-Nazis, hail to the Klan right there. They spent all their time doing that. And now they're going to have to answer for what they've been doing behind the curtain. So there's a really crazy twist to this news story that is hitting very close to home for me. This is personal. Let me explain why. So back in September, the Southern Poverty Law Center had already shown me exactly how they operate, especially when it comes to Black conservatives who refuse to bow the knee or carry water for the left. Literally the day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they targeted my friend and colleague, Vince Everett Ellison. You can see it. I'm going to link it. You can go to their website. They dragged his name through the mud on their Hate Watch webpage after Vince was at a TPUSA event, a conservative event, and all Vince did was tell the truth about the Black political establishment. He told the truth about DEI. He talked about the destructive legacy of the leftist racist politics that have been pervasive in the Black community. And he said some unsavory things about MLK. And what they decided to do was publish their commentary targeting him and labeling him as a right-wing hack and an extremist. And that's part of their entire shtick. That's what they do. And this is why critics are saying that this organization is politically loaded. Because let's be clear, I was at the actual event that they referenced. It was a TPUSA event. I heard what Vince said with my own ears. I know the context. And people who know Vince and how he speaks and communicates, they knew and understood the context too. But what the SPLC did was take a very figurative, forceful, and rhetorical device that Vince often uses when he talks. They ripped it out of its context. They stripped it of its nuance, just removed the whole point that was being made and just presented it as proof that, see, these Blacks are a problem. These Black conservatives, this is proof of him being a menace. That ain't journalism. All they did was try to launder a narrative. Vince's message was about merit. He talks about excellence. And the fact that Black Americans, we don't need white liberals lowering standards for us, rigging the system, or handing out symbolic trophies just so they can feel morally superior. Vince was making the point that respect is earned by your discipline and your competence and your performance and how you show up in the world, but not by begging your supposed oppressors to lower the bar. But they don't care about the context or the truth. Organizations like SPLC, they can't survive in a world where Black conservatives are bold and speak plainly and think independently. They can't handle that. A free Black mind is a threat to the racial grievance economy. So what did they do? They painted a caricature. They distorted his words. They cherry picked what they wanted to hear, and they turned his rhetoric into a scandal and then used it to tell their donors, see, See how hateful these people are. This is danger. You need to be careful of that Vince Everett Ellison. You got to send us some money. And I'm like, I'm so glad they're being exposed. Now the public gets to see whether the same instinct for distortion is also what shaped how they handled actual extremists and donor funds. So that's why this case is personal for me, because this institution has shown us that they are capable of manipulating a narrative and that everything that it touched probably at this point deserves a second look. Why would we trust anything that they say at this point? We saw what they did in Charlottesville. I saw what they did to my friend. The next day after they published that hit piece about Charlie Kirk and Vince Everett Ellison and TPUSA, Charlie was assassinated. So this is what happens when government and media anoint false prophets and give them the microphone and make them the arbiters of truth. So what is the bigger lesson here? America keeps handing moral authority to these organizations that speak the language of compassion, but they operate with the logic of power. That is the pattern and that is the grift. They will tell you that they're here to heal the division and that they want unity, but they're constantly dividing. These people are looking and making up racism, thinking to make you think that it's lurking under every nook and cranny when it's not. They claim that they're here to confront the hatred, but they selectively are targeting their ideological enemies. You can't say that you want to defend the vulnerable and then smear Christians, conservatives, and anyone else who will not kiss the ring of the progressive orthodoxy. So now they want the public to believe, hey, oh, there's nothing to see here. These were just informants. Right? Nobody believes you. No, ma'am. No, sir. They may try to use that as their legal defense, but the public is not crazy for noticing that there's something stinking in Denmark. Okay? This is exactly what happens when people reject truth and they build institutions on a false witness. I am hoping that when the courts examine this, it's already been indicted, brought before a grand jury. I will be watching this story carefully. But I am interested in seeing how this is going to play out, because institutions and organizations like this, they've been doing this for years. They've been mislabeling and calling dissent hate. Every time you speak the truth, you're speaking violence. They'll call biblical conviction extremism. And if you've got moral clarity about what's happening in the culture, now you're dangerous. And so these people have been moving around and using their money for nefarious intent by actually raising money by funding the very extremists that they claim are the problem. And I wonder if they did it because they were having a hard time finding legitimate instances of racism, hate, and bigotry, whatever that is, or whatever that even means anymore. Many of us don't even know. So I'm curious to know, what is it that you think about this story? Are you shocked that the high priest of hypocrisy, known as the Southern Poverty Law Center, was caught actually giving money to the extremist groups that they claim are such an existential threat to America? Are you shocked about that, allegedly? I know I'm not. But I'm also interested in knowing, do you believe that much of the racial hatred and animus that we have seen as of late since Barack Obama's presidency has been stoked? Those flames have been stoked by organizations, not just SPLC is just one of many. You can add BLM to this as well. I want to hear from you guys. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.